Alright, good morning, evening, or whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to round 4 of the Tier 2 Season 6 season for the 4 BRL. Should be looking at quite a good race today, especially after Miami last week. So, right now the drivers again are sorted, and we are waiting for quali to start. But, before quali starts, we have a few other bits that I would like to go through, including the current driver standings and the team or constructor standings. So, just waiting on the go-ahead. Oh, while we're waiting on the lobby to get ready for qualifying, let's go through our current driver standings as of right now. So, starting off with Rob Su, currently holding the first place position with a 72 points. Quite a strong lead so far from him. He has been giving up quite a good performance throughout most of the races, especially even during Miami last week. He put up quite a good fight, but sadly it wasn't enough to get past our second place position during that race. Resurrection is currently holding second with 57 points. Resurrection last week especially put up some great competition in the Miami Grand Prix, giving us a great run with essentially holding first throughout most of that race last week, which was an impressive race from him especially. And then, of course, in third we have Errol Blake. He was the second place position in last week's race. Again, excellent performance for him, currently on 52 points, so not that large of a gap. He is going to be someone that Resurrection needs to keep his eyes on. Then moving down into fourth, we have Bazbrains currently in fourth with 52 points. He has been putting up some great performances even during Miami last week. Even after he had a crash during some of the earlier laps, he managed to move his way back up to ninth in that race, working his way back up through the grid, which was very impressive from him. And then fifth, we have Melv, who is currently on 49 points. As well as him, he had some great competition with the last race. Then sixth, we have Jimmy with 41. Jimmy had, well, he had a bit of a rough race last week. Of course, Miami isn't everyone's favourite track, and that did really show, especially during that turn one where we had the two cars go off the track, and then Jimmy unfortunately got knocked down to 15th. But he did work his way back up the grid ever so slightly, so it's not all gone for him. He still has a chance in this to climb his way up. In 7 we have Nico, currently sitting on 33 points. He as well last week was someone that stood out, putting up some great competition through, especially with some of the battles that we saw towards the later end and the middle of the race between him and Robsu. Those two were going quite well throughout that entire race, with a little bit of added competition from Melv as well throughout. Moving on to 8th, we currently have Harinator. He is sitting on a 32 as of right now. Again, he has been doing well throughout the season. He's been working his way up. In 9th, we have LX on 29. And then we move down to 10th, we have BGR on 24 points. To 11th, we've got JR at 26, currently on 20 points. In 12th, we have San on 18. 13th is Sof on 15, as well as Chia in 14th, also on 15. In 15th, we have Leric on 9, 80 Numo, 8th, 8 points on 16th. 17th, we have Spider on 6. 18th, we have Chicken Wing on 4. 19th, Trucker on 3. And in 20th, Huntilla also on 3. So, this is the fourth race of this season so far. We're nearing the halfway mark, and we're starting to see those gaps open up between some of the drivers, especially the differences if we look between the lower ends and the top ends of the grid. But overall, we're still looking for some good fighting and good movement from the drivers trying to make their way up the grid. Now, let's take a look at our team or constructor standings as of now. So, right now, after last week, Mercedes managed to take the lead from Ferrari. They were drawn last week during the Miami Grand Prix, but especially with Robs's performance last week, he managed to push them up to a 92. So that's pushed Mercedes up into that top position. Am I? Ooh. Hang on a minute. Just bear with me a second. Do I have that on? Oops, well, greatly apologise to the drivers. I had push to talk turned off in game. So if you could hear me, I apologise. Anyway, as I was saying, Mercedes managed to open that gap between Ferrari last week, with Ferrari's now sitting in second with 82. Ferrari are going to be looking up to move to that gap because the gap between them and third is still quite large, with AlphaTauri in third sitting on 65. And then in fourth below that, 10 points below, we have... But AlphaTauri will also be looking at Red Bull below them, only 10 points behind. Even though Red Bull do need to currently look out for Alpine in fifth. Alpine are currently sitting at 53, only a 2-point difference between them. As well as Williams are only on 50 in sixth. So, and even Haas in seventh on 47. Those four teams especially have quite small gaps between them, so it'll be great to see how they turn out after the races today. In eighth, we have Aston Martin on 40, a great push-up from last week where they were sitting in 10th on 10 points. Ninth, we have McLaren on 31, and 10th, we have Alfa Romeo on 27. Fourth race of the season, almost halfway through, those gaps are starting to open up, as with the drivers. But especially between the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh positions, there is still some small gaps. Room for those teams to make their way up. Well, as of now, qualifying is underway, so let's transition to our qualifying and see how our drivers are doing for today's Spanish Grand Prix. Let me get all my things set up. Alright, track's looking quite busy at the moment. Most of the drivers are out on their outlaps. Got Nico and Huntilla are both currently setting lap times. Looks like almost everyone is out of the pits except for 3 drivers as of now. We've got a 19-people grid today, so we're looking for some great racing. And possibly a bit of Turn 1 chaos that we will need to watch out for, especially on Spain, because we have tire marbles, and those aren't everyone's favourite. But yeah. Overall, I feel like today we are going to see some good racing. Alright, we've got our first lap time set by Vazbrain's currently at a 1:12.5. I have managed to get the chat issue fixed since last week as well, so if there's any issues with if the game audio is too loud, you're struggling to hear what I'm saying, or I'm too loud, you can't really hear the game, just let me know in chat and I'll try and fix it. Ali House from Mercedes moving up to the top position with a 12.4. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the competition with the drivers stacks up today. I know there are going to be quite a few drivers looking to close those gaps. Excuse me. Because we're almost halfway through the season now, so this is where we start getting to the point where we start to see those gaps form up, which can start to give us more accurate predictions on what we think is going to happen towards the end of the season. But no, overall, after the Miami race, I know Miami is not everyone's favourite track, especially because of that Sector 1 that Miami has that's quite twisty. But then we move on to now like a track like Spain, I'm sure it's going to be nice for some drivers, but then of course some drivers also aren't too big of a fan of Spain, as I mentioned before with the time marbles. With quite a few drivers out now setting laps. I'm hoping to see some great performance today, especially, I know... Oh, what is it? I would like to see quite a few... There is quite a few teams that I would like to potentially see move up. I forgot the game pauses when I do that. I will grab it up here so I can take a look at this again. Especially with the driver standings. Okay, we've got a rather empty track as of now, as most of the people who've set their laps are coming back into the pits. Not sure. I'm going to double check quickly. I'm not sure if we have any quali bans for this round, so I just want to double check. Because if I remember correctly, the only person who currently has a quali ban active is Chicken Wing, but he's not here currently for this race. So that one won't be in effect until the next round he is here. No, doesn't look like we have any active quali bans. So we should see, hopefully, as many drivers as possible set times. Robster is definitely one of the people that, for this season in particular, for Tier 2, we want to keep an eye on. He is one of the, I think he's the main driver right now, with 72 points, currently holding first. He's the one also pushing Mercedes up with that 72 points, as Mercedes are sitting on 92 in first right now. So he is definitely going to be the one who's currently pushing up Mercedes. So with Ali House, one of the reserve drivers in today for Mercedes. Alpine just got off the track. Is that Melv? Melv going off the track. After coming through sector 1. Got more drivers coming out to set more lap times as well, which is good to see. But no, even before that Alpine went off the track, Robster is definitely one that I'm want to keep my eye on, especially with that boost he gave Mercedes last week, which helped them push up past Ferrari. With Mercedes now holding a nice 92, which is 72 of those are from Robster. We'll have to see how Ali House does. As of right now, he has the fastest quali lap, so he'll be starting on pole if it remains that way. And while he is a reserve driver, yes, it'll be great to see him help push Mercedes up. Aston Martin, though, is another one in particular, as they have managed to push themselves up from last to 8th on the last race. However, we do have two different drivers today, as last week was mostly reserve. I think it was full reserve for Aston. I'll have to double check on that, but Aston are slowly managing to make their way up the grid for the driver, or the constructor standings. Especially after the Miami Grand Prix, where especially Aero, one of our reserve drivers who was on Aston at the time, managed to push them up with that performance he was putting in. Got a new fastest lap from Baz Brains now, setting a 12.3. I mean, Red Bull is also a nice one to keep an eye on, especially with Spider and Nico, with the full-time drivers here today. They're sitting on 4th right now. It'll be nice to hopefully see the Red Bull drivers be able to try and push themselves up the constructor standings, because they do not have a substantial gap between them and AlphaTauri as of right now. So they'll be looking to close that, but as well they also need to keep an eye on Alpine, as Alpine is not too far behind, only sitting on 53. What's up, Daedric? So it's especially the four main people that are going to be competing in the constructor standings are looking like Red Bull, Alpine, Williams, and Haas, because those guys only generally have about a 3-point difference between each of them. So depending on how you say, especially for Haas as well, if Haas can put in a good performance today, they can push themselves up the constructor standings, possibly past Williams and Alpine, maybe even Red Bull if their performance is good enough. But in terms of the driver standings, I apologise while I'm looking at the standings because I have to use my phone for that. I cannot see the chat, so just if I don't respond, just bear with me. And then for the driver standings, Robsu especially putting in some great competition. Last week especially, managing to push himself up to first place. He's been holding that first place since round 1 actually. After his first place finish in Brazil, and then securing 25, and then pushing up to 52 after round 2. And then at the end of the Miami, he's now sitting on a nice 72. So if he can keep up that performance today, there's a good chance he'll be able to keep that position, especially as Resurrection is not too far behind. Resurrection now setting a new fastest lap of 11.9. But Resurrection is the one that Robsu will be looking out for. He's on 57 currently. So Resurrection is looking to push and close that gap. However, Resurrection needs to be aware of Aero. Actually, no, Aero is not in this race today. He is a reserve. Baz as well, actually. Baz is on 52 as well, tied with 3rd. So Baz Brains will be the Ferrari, will be one of the drivers that Resurrection is looking out for, as the gap is not too large. So if Baz manages to put in a good performance today, there's a good chance he will push up, passing Resurrection on the current driver standings. And then another notable one I would like to mention is Jimmy. Last week he was holding 3rd place with a 37, but after a slight... It was not a great race for him on the Miami Grand Prix. After falling all the way back to 15th, but slowly managing to push his way back up the grid slightly, he's now sitting on 41 in 6th. Especially for him, if he can put in some good performance today, there'll be great room, especially for him to move out and push himself up towards Melv and Baz. The gap between him and Melv is currently 8 points. So if he can put in that good performance, there is a great chance he can push himself up. Alright, let me get back into chat now. But yeah, those are some of the things that I'd just like to bring up, because those gaps are... Because we're approaching that halfway mark, those gaps are starting to be getting larger. And yeah, hopefully we'll start to see some great competition as the drivers are pushing themselves up. We've got every driver currently with a lap time set, with the fastest lap time being set by Resurrection on AlphaTauri with a 11.9. Melv's coming back out. He's currently on an outlap, so Melv could be trying to look to push himself up to that podium position. Oh, Jesus! I looked away for 1 second. And that is, Jimmy's qualifying is now over. Just had a crash with one of the AlphaTauris, I'm presuming 80 Numo, who has also retired from the session. Not a great end there. Jimmy's setting the he's setting a 12.5 time currently, so he's starting 9th. Whereas the AlphaTauri collided with 80 Numo sitting at 19th, 16.6. We take a glance away for 2 seconds, and that happens. I've got 3 minutes 30 left to qualifying. Got every driver currently with a time. Yeah, his Harronator, he's another one that I did bring up. Harronator's currently sitting in 8th on 32, only a 1-point gap between him and 7th. So he'll be looking to hopefully push up. If he can put out a good performance today, he'll manage to push himself up past Nico and get himself closer towards Jimmy. Haas especially, because of course their constructors are looking good. Their standing is currently on a 47 and 7th. This is great room for them to push up past Williams and Alpine. And even Red Bull if they manage to put in that performance. Alright. 2 minutes after qualifying, Mel is now done for the session. He's settling with his 12.1. Got another driver as well, one of our reservists for stepping in for a McLaren seat right now in 2nd on 11.9. So he is definitely close to resurrection. If he can put in the good performance today, he can help push McLaren up, as McLaren are currently sitting down in 9th on 31. If he can get in that good performance to help McLaren push past Aston, then that will do McLaren a great deal. Soft is currently down at a 15.1. Damn. So we've already had our first crash of the session in quali. Right, as the drivers now finalise their laps, we're coming up to the end of qualifying. Got a 5 grid place penalty for blocking, was that blocking the pit lane? I can't get any of that up right now. Yeah, absolutely tiny gap between Resurrection and 2nd on qualifying today. Alright, as we now finish up qualifying, drivers coming back into the pits. Got a few people trying to put in a couple last laps, which is nice. With Plivac moving up to 6th on a... he has a 1:12.3. Eric disqualified from the session, parked in a dangerous location. A couple last drivers setting their last laps. We come into the final minutes of qualifying now. The last driver's coming to the pits now. So after today's qualifying, we have Resurrection starting pole position, Arameleth starting in second, Ali House in third with Melv in fourth, Robsu starting in fifth, Bazbrains in sixth, Levank in seventh, BGR in eighth, Jimmy in ninth, Steepers in 10th, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, Shioktu in 11th, Harinator in 12th, Huntilla in 13th, Spider in 14th, Nico in 15th, Vide in 16th, Soft in 17th, Numo in 18th, and Eric in 19th. We've got a few incidents, but none of them are looking too great. We have a couple grid penalties for illegal blocking and a few other bits, but none that will, only a couple that will actually affect the actual race. Alright. Let's move on to the actual Grand Prix for today. I'll double check my OBS. Okay, we're looking good. Alright, good luck to all our drivers. Let's get ready to head out and see how today's race goes. Alright, here we go. Alright, and away we go. Resurrection still holding onto that first place. As the driver's moving around within the grid. Oh, slight contact there between Robsu and Baz. We come through the first turn of Sector 1. Oh, we already got a caution as Huntilla spins out. She's got Robsu open, not Robsu, Resurrection opening up that gap between him and Baz. Bit of movement down the lower end of the grid. With Soft being spun out. Huntilla pushing his way up past Soft. Soft now is fallen back to the back of the grid. Resurrection really trying hard to gain on Baz, open up that gap. All the drivers come round back into the first straight. Down back into Sector 1. Resurrection still holding that strong lead. So we now see a bit of movement further down the grid with Nico moving up to 10th. Moving up top as well, Jimmy and Ali House both gaining a place on Velvank. Now we see a gap starting to form between Bazbrains and the McLaren in third. Is Baz going to be able to keep that gap open, however. See Resurrection as well opening up. Oh, and Resurrection goes off the track. Baz taking advantage going into first place. Mel moving up to third, with Resurrection slipping back in fourth. Our fastest lap by Baz set at 1:14.9. Baz is now opening up that gap between him and second, until he moves back to the turns of Sector 1. Robso as well, currently sitting at a 1.5 second gap between him and third. Resurrection is going to be trying to gain that momentum to get back up there, looking for that opportunity to get past Robsu. He's sticking to the rear of Robsu's car, trying to look for that opportunity to go past. As he moves out onto the outside. He's taking this opportunity, but he just doesn't have it to get past until the next turn. He just about managed to slip past Robson and make his way up to fourth. Now he's going to be looking to move up towards that third position currently held by Aramelin. Melv and Baz opening up, like trying to keep those gaps to allow them to focus more. Baz especially keeping that 1.2 second gap between him and Melv. Melv currently more having to worry about the McLaren in third. Robson managing to take back fourth from Resurrection, but Resurrection just managed to take it back. Cleveland has also managed to take back the 7th spot from Jimmy. Two Williams sticking close together. This Resurrection right now is trying to close that gap between him and third. Got Melv as well trying to catch up to Baz as they come through the start of the race. Resurrection still trying to look for the opportunity to move up. But he still has to worry about Robsu still trying to beat past him for that 4th position. We've got Ara as well trying to currently... Oh! Here's the safety car coming out. Safety car is now out. I'm not sure why. Not seeing any particular incident happen. But as we now move into a safety car lap. We've got people moving into the pits with Melv and Baz heading into the pits. Hamlin stays out, however, to take that top position. But Jimmy as well moving into the pits. With now Robsu Ali, Divan Carinator moving up the grid. With Hamlin taking first from McLaren. As he now comes up onto the safety car. This is going to give especially the drivers towards the back end, a chance to catch up. Hopefully we get to see Spider, Soft, Eric down there move their way up the grid. I'm still unsure of why the safety car came out. I'll need to look into that by watching back. We now wait for the drivers to start bunching up more close towards the safety car. Not how I was expecting this to already go. That safety car allowing the drivers to close that gap between them and the car in front. So we now see all the drivers towards the back end of the grid making their way up. Rapid keeping his tyres good and warm there. Safety car's going to be staying up for at least another lap. As soft now closes in. All of our drivers are now bunched together. Still unsure as to why the safety car came out. Most people will be hoping for that as well, Jimmy. As we can tell, all the drivers in our group together, hopefully we'll see some great more rivalry and people trying to make their way up a place, taking advantage of the safety car restart, as long as we get a good one. Safety car is coming in this lap. These drivers are fighting to keep their tyres warm and ready for the restart coming this lap. As first place is currently putting a gap between him and the safety car, ready for that restart. As the safety car now heads back into the pit, and we are back to racing. Jimmy moving up to 11th. Melv as well, moving up to 9th place. Seeing a lot of movement now towards the back ends. Drivers like Resurrection are going to be looking. He's going to be looking to move up, and he overtakes and he gets round back into first place. Is he going to be able to hold it? Is he going to be able to take from the McLaren? He does just manage to slip in front of the McLaren, taking first place back. Take a great performance from Resurrection just there. We still see movement towards the back end of the grid as the drivers are still all bunched up together. And so we see that gaps are slowly starting to show through once again. Especially that gap that's beginning to form between Nico and Jimmy, with a 2.7 second difference between the two cars. Resurrection still holding strong, beginning to open up that gap between him and second. Out he has passes Rob Sue taking third. Two Mercedes drivers still sticking together, with Baz also now making his way back up the grid. Ugh. It's not what I wanted. Spider making his way up as well, from up to 14th. We've now got DRS enabled. DRS is enabled. And so we're going to see drivers attempting to take advantage of those gaps. Resurrection especially want to be opening that gap to prevent Ali from being able to use DRS to make his way closer. The round coming towards Sector 2 with the first DRS zone on the track. Dave also managing to move up to 7th. Jimmy making his way up to 8th as well. We are starting to see those gaps open back up, however, from the safety car lap. Jimmy climbing up to 7th. Now moves his way to the front of that smaller group. He's now going to be looking to close that gap between him and Baz. So now come past into the DRS zone. Got both Biodave and Melv using DRS in an attempt to catch up. Melv just passes Jimmy as they come up to the turn. We look towards more up the front though, especially with that gap between Ali House and Resurrection. Resurrection is definitely trying to avoid having to worry about the threat of DRS from Ali. As they come up, taking the turn to Sector 2 towards the first DRS zone. Armland is taken back second. That gap is too big for him to use DRS, however, Ali is going to be looking to use DRS to pass him again on that straight. So Resurrection managing to open up a massive gap between him and Armland. And we're looking to keep that gap open for the next 20 laps, hopefully. We're still looking that a couple drivers have still not taken any pit stops yet. Resurrection being the one in particular, especially when he goes in for his pit, Ali will be looking to take advantage of that. The main one though, looking at it, the Baz being able to take advantage of the fact that all of those drivers in front of him have not yet taken a stop. Most drivers running mediums with a couple of hard down the track as well today. No current active penalties. We are looking good as of now. So we now come back around in Sector 2. Got Jimmy making his way back up as well, pushing himself up to 7th once again. Moving as Nico's as well, trying to move up. Bidave's obviously taking that position back. Jimmy as well now managing to catch up to Melv. Using DRS in an attempt to catch up close to Melv. Jimmy is definitely looking to move up into that 6th place. Got Robster as well moving up into third. The two Mercedes drivers coming very close around that turn. The slight Andy House having to go off the track ever so slightly there. He's still looking for that opportunity to get past Robsy. You can see as well, Melv and Jimmy have caught their ways up to the leaders. Resurrection, however, to still hold that gap strong. We've got a 3-second time penalty for Plevac for having multiple warnings. Mel was actually moving up the grid again, passing Baz. Jimmy goes for it as well, and Jimmy also manages to pass Baz as they come around that turn. Jimmy is still looking for the opportunity to get past Mel as they come round. Now rounding towards Sector 2, Jimmy is definitely looking to take advantage of DRS here. Melv will have DRS available to him as well though. Jimmy's also got Baz to worry about. Baz is right on his tail. Got Melv as well managing to move up again, but he's also received a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. He's going to need to make up that time, especially with Baz and Jimmy moving their way up closer. Got Nico as well trying to catch the gap between him and Sheepers. 4-second gap there between 6th and 5th currently, so Jimmy does not really have to worry too much about the drivers behind him. He can focus more on the drivers in front of him. Fast and slight slide there from the time marbles. And I'll come back around into section 2. All these drivers open up on DRS. Got another 3-second time penalty for Nico for multiple warnings. Track limits, guys. Melv is still putting in that competition there to move up past Robsu. Managed to secure that position. Still got that gap between him and Resurrection though, with a 4.3-second gap between 2nd and 1st as of now. Robsu still trying to look at that gap. Him and Melv are still quite close together. Baz as well behind him, as well as Jimmy. Those 4 drivers there especially are going to be fighting for that 3rd place position. With Robsu heading to the pits, allowing Baz, Jimmy to move up closer to Melv. Currently we're looking at three 3-second time penalties, one for Mel, one for Nico, one for Plivac. Still most of the grid sticking to mediums and hards. Jimmy is definitely still looking at an opportunity to get past Baz, and Mel is still trying to close that gap between him and Resurrection. Oh, Baz passing Mel as they come around the turn. Is Mel going to be able to get the switch? And Mel takes it back. Some great competition from the two cars there on the turns around Sector 1. They're still going to look for an opportunity to move forward if he can as they come close to the sector. Baz is passing him again. Is he going to be able to keep that spot? No. It looks like Melva's just managed to push past and keep his spot. As Baz moves out again in the DRS zone, taking the second place, but he's not able to keep it. Then come around the next turn, Melva's just still managing to keep in that spot. What some great competition between these two drivers today. Got Baz now up to second, Mel first as Resurrection takes his first pit stop of the race. These three drivers particularly are in their own little group, way ahead of the rest of the grid. That competition we are seeing between Jimmy, Melv and Baz, with especially Baz and Melv constantly past each other. Jimmy currently up the rear of Melv, looking for the opportunity to get past him as he slides straight right around that turn into Sector 3. Resurrection has fallen also to 8th. Melv takes it. Oh no, Baz is taking his pit, allowing Melv and Jimmy to move up to first and second. Currently, all the drivers at the top of the grid have taken their pits. Depends if any drivers are planning to come in for a second stop. Melv currently holding the first position, with Jimmy in second. New fastest lap from Alley House, 14.9. But Nico now moving up to first, or third, sorry, my bad. But Jimmy and Melv, those two are quite far ahead compared to the rest of the drivers. Resurrection has been making his way back up the grid, however, up to 5th. We now come around in lap 20 of this Grand Prix. Drivers at the front of the grid are as well starting to catch up with the drivers at the back of the grid, so we could see some potential lapping in this race. Just have to keep into mind the penalties, as Mel needs to try and open a gap between him and Jimmy, otherwise that first place position is still not going to be his due to that 3-second time penalty. Let's take a look at some of our drivers further back. Nico is kind of on his own right now, trying to close that gap, but he's got that massive 9 point... I'm looking at the wrong one. That massive 8.5 second gap between him and Jimmy. He's just got arrow length closing on his rear 3-second gap. Resurrection's taking on fast lap, 14.923. But Jimmy and Mel still. Mel opening up a gap between him and Jimmy. Resurrection still trying to make his way up the grid back towards that top place, looking to get his pole position back. Some movement down towards the bottom of the grid as well, with Bank now moving up to 16th. Some of the large gaps we are seeing between the drivers here are something that is a result of there is quite a large difference between some of the drivers in terms of experience. Jimmy's now moving in for another pit stop. Is Nico going to be able to close that gap in time before Jimmy comes out? As he comes around a corner. Brain's receiving a 3-second penalty. As Jimmy now moves down towards 6th for the pit stop. 7th now, he's going to be able to make it back out in time. Or is anyone else going to be able to pass him as he comes out onto the pits? And Jimmy falls back to 8th after his second stop of the race. Mel now holding the first place position until a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. We have quite Mel holding a large gap, currently of 10 seconds between him and Nico. Some amazing competition that we are seeing. Resurrection now moving up to 2nd, and we're looking to close that gap between him and Mel. He's got 10 laps to do it. Fastest lap from Baz in 14.3. So Jimmy's managing to make his way back up the grid as well. Dave's now received a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Track limits, guys. Keep them in mind. And looking at the gaps closing, especially with 3rd being close to 2nd. There's still a large substantial gap between Resurrection and Mel. Resurrection's going to need to get on closing that gap within the next 10 laps. The Resurrection is slowly managing to gain. It depends, will he be able to keep that momentum? It's been on until lap 24. Got checked to already a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Jamie's moved his way back up to 6th. Going to be looking to move up towards Baz. It's also got Ali House behind him. Got Eric retiring from the session. One driver out of the session as of now. Resurrection still moving, managing to shorten that gap. He's only now got 8 laps left to finish closing that gap if he has any chance of getting up towards Melv. Some of the drivers only had one stop, however they might consider a second depending on their current tyre setup. Currently looking at mostly mediums, with quite a few hards out there and a couple softs as well. The Chiactor as well has retired from the session. We are seeing that gap between Mel and Resurrection slowly closing, as his Resurrection has now brought it from a 10-second gap to a 7.5-second gap, and it's still decreasing. We do have Jimmy as well, slowly managing to start closing that gap between him and McLaren in 5th. Baz as well, trying to keep up with Resurrection, but sadly Resurrection is opening up that gap. As he looks to closing that gap between him and Melv, he is opening up another gap between him and Baz. Baz also has Robsu currently to worry about in 4th. Have a Alfa Romeo BGR as well, moving up to 8th. He's going to be looking to push his way up. He's got a substantial gap between him and Ali House, however, currently 6.6 seconds. Still have a smaller gap forming between Resurrection and Melv, as Melv has now, Resurrection has now halved that gap. Depends if he can keep that pace in closing that gap. Nico as well moving his way up past Harinator. Got Robson as well, is managing to start closing that gap between him and Baz. Going to be looking for that overtake opportunity whenever he can. With 6 laps to go. We now come into the 28th lap. 5 laps to go. Resurrection still managing to slowly close that gap between him and Melv. But they received a 3-second time penalty, again for multiple warnings. So how are we looking for penalties as of now? Have 3 seconds on Melv, 3 seconds on Baz, 3 seconds on Nico, 3 seconds on Plevank, 6 seconds on Bidave, and 5 seconds on Huntilla. That does mean Resurrection does not need to put in the full effort and get past Melv. As long as Resurrection can close that gap lower than 3 seconds, he will have that shot at taking that top position. Obviously, still got the McLaren behind him to worry about as well, but he's also looking to take that 3rd place position from Baz. Still seeing Resurrection managing to slowly make that gap between him and Melv shorter, as we now have a 4-second gap on the 29th lap. with 4 to go. He definitely still has a shot at moving upwards and taking that first place position. Especially with Mel's 3-second penalty. Not to worry about 18 Numa as he has been lapped. So Resurrection will have to worry about getting past him. Resurrection is still managed with that gap. It's getting close to 3 seconds now. This is where Milv is going to have to start to focus up and attempt to open that gap further. Robsu as well, who looks like he's still trying to get past Baz, looking for that opportunity to get past. We now come into 3 laps left of the race. And Jimmy has now received a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, presumably track violations. Or track limit. So to keep that gap then between him and Ali to hold that 6th place position. And it comes in as we come into the start of the 31st lap. He's got that gap slowly withering between him and Resurrection, now down to 3.4 seconds. With a 3-second penalty, that's not going to do Melv any good. Eventually he's going to be able to keep that gap over 3 seconds. Resurrection is making ground on him. Now Baz as well. With a 3-second penalty, he is going to need to attempt to get a gap open between him and Rob Sue so that he can keep that 3rd position. It's going to be a close one. We now come in, Melv comes around the last corner on the start of the 2nd of last lap. Some amazing competition we haven't seen today. Resurrection has now received a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That means Melv can now begin to calm down a bit. He's not going to worry too much about losing his spot to Resurrection. By Davis, I've received another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, bringing him up to 9 seconds total. Melv's still going to want to keep that gap open, however, as it still holds the opportunity for Resurrection to get past him. And with his penalty as well, that would mean Resurrection would hold the spot. We now come round back onto the last straight. And as we enter the final lap of the race. This Mel and Resurrection is still slowly trying to make ground on Melv. We have a stopped Aston on the track, this to be by Dave. Now comes in back into the first DRS zone, sector 2. Out to the straight towards sector 3. No, Resurrection is right up behind him. No one would take advantage of DRS, but there isn't a lot of a zone as they come around into the final straight. And take advantage, and Melv taking the first position, Resurrection finishing second. Obviously finishing third, with Aaron Rathmove finishing in fourth, Baz in fifth. So now Ali House comes down taking sixth, Jimmy finishing in seventh. The rest of the drivers now have 2 minutes and 35 seconds to finish off the rest of their laps. BGR finishing in 8th. Nico finishing in 11th. With Plivank in 12th. For the back of the grid moving up as well now. With Huntilla in 13th. Dave in 14th. 15th with a slight bit of movement. We now wait for Spider to the last one to come around and finish off. Right, let's take a look at the final positions for the race today. A fantastic victory from Melv, pushing his way up the grid. So he's going to be very happy with that one. So, as we come to the end of the Spanish Grand Prix, we're looking at Melv taking first, Resurrection in second, Robson third, Amleth in fourth, Baz Brains in fifth, Ali House in sixth, Jimmy Jacks finishing seventh, BGR finishing 8th, Sheepers in 9th, Aronator in 10th, Nico in 11th, Plivank in 12th, 13th is Soft, Huntilla in 14th, Bydave in 15th, Spider in 16th, 18 Numo 17th, Jerk2 18th, and finally Eric coming in 19th. What a great race today. So we now move on to see if we can get some drivers in for some post-race interviews. Alright, also great race today. All right. Oh, I can actually hear you this week. Alright, I'm alright, you. Let's just wait to see who we get in. And make sure I've actually got Discord unmuted as well. Just wait and see if Rob Sue is turning up.
Yeah.
How do I get it to come through on my Xbox, gents?
There should be a way to.
There you go. I think
Yeah,
I've got
if
it.
you right click on, or however, what it is on the VC and the device you're on, there'll be a transfer to Xbox button.
Yeah, I've got it. Can everyone hear me?
I can.
I
Resurrection.
can indeed.
Can everyone hear me?
I can.
Yeah.
I'll just go back to my phone.
Alright. So we're not going to have Rob Sue, however, we do have Melv and Resurrection here.
Resurrection is here.
Yes, indeed you are.
Hang on. I know why it is. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was my mic volume was turned down.
Alright.
Ah.
Oh, let's start off with Resurrection.
I didn't win. Melvin won.
Hey, I'm going to work my way up, but second place today.
Yeah.
After holding first place strong for the entirety of that race as well.
Yeah, I messed up.
Pushed down.
I almost span. I don't know how you say it in English.
Spun.
Spun. Yeah.
And I lost a few positions, so that messed up my race. I went down to P5, I think.
Yep.
And then luckily a safety car came out because I also used most of my ERS. And then I worked my way up back to P2. And well, Melv had a wonderful race. He had very old hearts. And I was just thinking, I just need to get within the 3 seconds because he has a penalty. And just at the moment I did, I got my penalty. So
yeah.
I fucked myself up.
It was a greatly impressive performance, though, you moving up all the way from a 10-second gap between you and Mel all the way down to basically being back to back to each other.
Well, first I thought, oh, he needs to pit. That's I will get that. But I think
he held out on those pair of hards.
Yeah, I think he had an very early pit stop.
Yeah.
Well, massive congratulations to him. He drove massive on those very old hards. I couldn't gain enough to get an overtake, so he drove wonderfully.
Yeah, moving on to you, Mel. Congratulations on the victory today. How are you feeling after that?
Oh, mad. I didn't expect it. I thought, because I saw my first warning for track limits, and I thought, right, I can see how this race is gonna go. And then the safety car came out, like Resurrection said, and Baz dived into the pits. So I thought, I'm following him because he's in the lead. I was catching him, and I thought I'll stick behind him. And I thought, let's see, I can get these hards as far as I can, put the hards on, and come lap 22, I was only on like 45-50% wear. So I was like, I don't know. I was umming and ahhing for a couple of laps, and then but on lap 14, it popped up that I had a penalty for track limits, and I had no other warnings come up on my screen. So it was a real surprise on that 3 seconds.
We did have a lot of track limit warnings come in through that race. I think most drivers had at least a 3-second penalty by the end of that race.
Yeah.
I
I
had
didn't have the warnings either. It came as a
Yeah.
surprise.
yeah.
It tends to be
I had,
Spain as a track. It's one of the reasons that it isn't too
right.
liked.
Okay.
Because like I say, lap 1 or 2 it popped up, and then I didn't have anything until lap 14 when I got the penalty. So after lap 22, I just saved. I saw that Resurrection was coming up, and I think Robsu was coming up as well. So I saved all my earths for as much as possible, and just trying to eke out them hards. And towards the end, I was just praying that I didn't lose the back end. Lost it a little bit a couple of times, but managed to pick the time back up with the earths that I managed to stay safe. And then come to the last 3-4 laps, I was like, "Oh, Resurrection's got me. He's coming. He's within 4 now, 5. And then all of a sudden, he's got a penalty. I was like, "Oh, yes,
You're
this
welcome.
might be my chance."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
mad.
it was some great. There was a lot of great battles in that race today, especially
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
We definitely see some large gaps, like groups of people forming as well. Like especially between like first and fifth, there was their own little group as to the head until
Right.
Resurrection pulled away before, of
Yeah.
course, he
Mhm.
fell back.
I had a nice battle with the new guy, the Norwegian. I forgot his name.
Armaleth.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was coming up on him, and he went in the pit, so that opened for me to pass. Like, he gave me the DRS to finally catch
Oh,
up with you.
well,
So
I need to
if I
talk
didn't,
to him then. No.
if I didn't get that DRS off him and he pitted, I don't think I would have caught you then. But I had a great battle with Jimmy. Great battle with Robsu, Baz. Oh, it was great. Few
Yeah.
touches from people, but it gets a bit squirrely in them first couple of corners, so not too bothered. It happens that it's a low traction area, isn't it? So
Yeah.
no, all in all, it was a very clean race. It was
Yeah.
very enjoyable, really was.
If I may say something about BRL, sorry. This is the first. I don't know if you just joined, Melv. Is your name Melvin, or because it's a short Melv on the
Oh,
game, but
it's just my
but
nickname at work, so I just use it
oh
on
oh
Xbox. So
no, okay.
it's
But
yeah,
in my mind, I make it out Melvin. I know it's stupid,
yeah,
but
it's fine.
this is some really clean racing.
This
Of
was the
course,
first league I joined just before Christmas, doing
yeah,
all the trials and that. It's super
yeah,
clean.
yeah,
I've left a couple of others because they're just super dirty, like rear end you. Obviously, accidents happen, like little touches and
yeah,
little
yeah,
wheel
Yeah.
taps, or people miss braking points. It happens. But I had
yeah.
one guy at Monza, and he just full on first lap. I've braked behind the leader, and he's just full rear-ended me and shot me across the first chicane. Literally, I couldn't
Yeah,
even
it's
brake for the
great.
chicane. I was like,
Well,
and
even
the guy was like, "I brake too early." I was
yeah,
like, "Well, I'm the car in front. I brake when I choose."
yeah, exactly. But
I
even
didn't brake.
like last week, Son, he
Mm.
made a
Lap
dive
one,
bomb,
yeah,
and
yeah.
for
Had to miss
now,
his brake.
I see in the chat everybody is staying kind and
Yeah,
I take
you
it.
know,
It's okay, can
yeah,
happen.
yeah. Missed brake points.
Yeah.
They happen. You
Yeah,
know, we all said
yeah,
like, "Oh yeah, you took us out." He's like, "Yeah, you apologised. Move on,
yeah,
don't you? 'Cause it ain't gonna get
yeah.
you anywhere."
It's just a
So no,
game.
it's all
It's the
nice
end
and
of the day.
friendly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We're not
uh,
paid, are we? So no,
and
it's a really good league. To be fair, really enjoy
yeah,
the people who are in
yeah,
it, and it's
yeah,
tight battles all the way through. It's like
yeah,
I know Jimmy didn't do too well in the first race, I believe. No, second race, I think it was in Bahrain, in the
yeah,
sprint.
uh,
But then this week has been really fast. It's like you don't know
yeah.
who's coming each week and who's going to win. It's
I
really
lost.
Yeah.
good. It's a real,
Everyone has the preferred tracks, and especially today, we did
yeah.
see that shine
Yeah,
through. Because especially on
uh,
Miami last
Mm,
week, for example, Jimmy was quite far behind, but he managed to make his way up this
mm,
week.
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like Bahrain sprint, he lost a few places. I don't know what happened. Um, I think he hit Baz or something in the sprint or something. I don't know. But then in the
Yeah.
actual in the main feature race, he caught right up, and
yeah,
you just don't know who's coming each week. You got to be wary of all 20 people on this league.
yeah, yeah.
It's really good because you just
I,
Yeah.
don't know who's going to win.
I lost massive points there in the main race. I got a
Mm.
DNF. So,
I had DNF on by Brazil, so
yeah.
Alright,
we both had a DNF, so it's caught each
Yeah.
other up.
Melv
No.
and Resurrection, I thank you for your time today.
No worries, cheers.
And both
Yes,
congratulations on
thank-
the podium finish today.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
and
Yeah,
congrats
look
again
forward-
on the win, Melf.
Yeah. I look forward
Cheers.
to seeing you guys next week.
And see you next week.
What do
And
we
thanks
have?
for
next week.
commentating.
What do we have next week? I've forgotten. entirely.
Belgium, Spa.
Belgium,
Can
yeah.
I
Ooh,
just ask a
nice.
question, please?
Nice. It's a lovely one. If it
Yeah.
doesn't rain.
You've
Hello?
said it now.
Yeah, I've said it now.
Alright, once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thanks again for
Oh, am I not-
commentating, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll watch it back. I always do.
Yeah, me too.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the pole time? Because I wasn't here. I didn't race.
Oh, I
In
forgot.
Quali time, 1:11.9.
Fucking hell. Okay.
Oh,
Right.
okay. You can call me just Resurrection. It's okay.
Alright.
It was
No.
1:11.9.
Yeah.
Second was 11.9. Third
Yeah,
was
see, I'm
11.9.
just bad, so like I'm a bit higher than that, me. Like a
Alright.
second time, maybe like a second or so, but it's whatever.
Yeah, no, but this is the thing. Like, I found I've got quicker since being in this league because I'm racing quicker people. So you sort of learn their
Practice,
breaking points and you try their breaking points. And like Monday and Tuesday, I was Grand Prix mode doing practice Grand Prix to work out my fuel loads and what race strategies I was going to do.
Yeah.
So you will get faster in this league 100% just because of the people you're racing.
Yeah.
Not
The
too
thing
f-
is for me is
Not
that
too fast, I hope. No. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm only going to get as quick as you.
Alright.
No.
Well,
While we're all having a chit chat, I'll say hello as well then.
Oh, it's my
Hey.
everyone's here.
my English friend, my new.
alright. Well, we had a good race today, won the Spanish Grand Prix. And yeah. So, with Melv on top today. So hopefully that'll be some movement for Alpine. But yeah. So, thank you guys all for tuning in today and watching the Spanish Grand Prix. I'm Swag, I've been your commentator for today, and I will see you all next week where we have Belgium. Double check the track. Where is it? I've lost it. I'm blind. Yeah, we have Belgium next week on the 7th. So, I will speak to you all then, and take care.